Grimlock makes an attack at Scorponok's position and gets blasted, forcing him to activate the gene key early. While the team at the hub take down the missiles intended for the returning wreckers, the gene key is activated, but it instead restores everyone to normal. As part of Grimlock's plan, he didn't really use the gene key on Perceptor, instead telling him what was up and how he needed to sabotage Scorponok's plans. Scorponok and Grimlock fall over the edge of a pit to the horror of the Dinobots. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime, who has been traveling to the Ark the last few issues, reaches it as it takes off. Issue 91 begins the next storyline, Destiny. While Bludgeon shows Soundwave the effectiveness of his drones, Cybertron is not in great shape. Cleanup is underway, but Perceptor points out that things are a bit messed up for people. Their moral compasses were switched off, their darkest impulses and thoughts made manifest, and enjoying that darker side. Switching all that back on again is going to have consequences for the populace. And then, in the cold, sober light of day, suddenly coming face to face with every corrupt deed, every depraved thought, and wondering which is the real me. Give him the day off and a week's supply of coffee. Same treatment for college students who've been drinking and partying at a rave the night before. Yeah, on a more serious note of it, some are lashing out in minor fights, but others, despite not being in control of their faculties, want to be arrested and tried for war crimes. They're that disturbed by what happened. They also sent forces to Nebulos to try to help the people there, and yeah, the entire population was under mind control for a while, so they're all suffering from post-traumatic shock. Ultra Magnus, he's been a supporting character during all this, contacts Prime on Earth and fills him in, also mentioning Hot Rod's plans to go and reunify with the primordial Cybertronians. Magnus thinks that he's just not ready for this job. Optimus disagrees, thinking that stepping outside popular opinion is the first step to becoming a true leader. I think prioritizing something that can wait while you work on stabilizing the ongoing situation and giving deeply unpopular and awful orders is actually a sign of a bad leader, Optimus. Hot Rod explains to Cup that this has to take priority, that his presence in the tunnels seemed to awaken some kind of rage in the primordial Cybertronians that, if not quelled, will rise up and destroy them all. He also explains that the visions he's been having may not be of Cybertron's past, but its future. Hot Rod tries to explain all this to the populace, but they're pissed, someone even lobbing a grenade at him. Hot Rod, welcome to the wonderful world of politics! Cup recommends to Hot Rod that he's just not ready and is not in a position to reassure people, and that it might be best to just yield command over to Ultra Magnus. However, the Dinobots arrive and want to join Hot Rod in his next expedition into the tunnels, partly to protect him, but also because they think Grimlock is still alive, mostly out of faith. Hot Rod is inspired by their faith and tells Ultra Magnus to pool all resources into fixing the city while he's gone. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, another Cybertronian force examines the handiwork of Bludgeon's drones and reports back to its leader, G-Axis. Just watch, even though he's been vaporized, we're still somehow gonna get Generation 2 Megatron next. Issue 92 begins with Optimus going to see Spike, and getting blasted. He's only stopped from killing Prime by the other humans, who say that he doesn't get to make unilateral decisions for them. They'll hear out whatever Prime has to say, vote on it, and then maybe kill their ally. The system works! We soon learn that there's more to the civil unrest than just the gene key. Soundwave has been pumping a subsonic irritant through the intracom communication frequencies shared by all Cybertronians. It's just annoying people without them realizing it, putting them on edge. The only one who realizes something is up is the restored Blaster, but the Autobots can't be certain that he's actually picking something up, since the Nucleon had affected him by making him overly sensitive to sound. Soundwave picks up his eavesdropping and dispatches forces to kill Blaster, while back on Earth, Optimus proposes to the humans that instead of getting help from Cybertron, they could unite with the Nebulans, help each other out of their respective situations, especially since their advanced technology would be a major boon. Blaster takes down his attackers, but we soon realize that this was either their plan all along, or at least a convenient bonus. The Autobots shut down the intercom for maintenance, and the populace starts to calm again, but this required them to take down a lot of their long-range communication and warning systems, meaning they won't detect the approaching Ark or War World. Plus, the internet's out, so streaming services and video games are down, and everybody's really bored. In issue 93, Shockwave and Starscream finally eject Galvatron from the Ark and fly off, while Galvatron is pulled into the atmosphere. Back on, or rather under, the surface, Hot Rod's team locates the chamber housing Primus's head, and Hot Rod has a vision of himself from other series in the franchise. The primordial Cybertronians start coming out of the walls to attack our heroes, forcing them to retreat deeper into the tunnels until they find piles of corpses of long-dead Transformers, as well as Grimlock, who's being possessed by Primus. I thought in time we spoke. Me was Grimlock! Now me Godlock! Up in space, our poor beloved UFO Transformer, Cosmos, who I have not named until this point because it wasn't relevant to do so, because the point is, if the Transformers are mostly disguises on Earth, why was he shaped like a UFO? Is running a patrol, but sadly is destroyed by the arrival of Warworld. Ultra Magnus is unable to start coordinating their forces though, because Galvatron has found him and makes his attack, assuming that he'd be in command if Prime was gone, which is kind of odd since in his timeline it was Rodimus Prime who had been in charge, and subsequently killed by him. I don't know, it's apparently a Marvel UK thing. After an intense fight between Galvatron and Ultra Magnus, Warworld unleashes the drones. They're powered by Matrix energy from Thunderwing's body, which makes them formidable, plus they have adaptive and regenerative capabilities from alien technology. But Perceptor has analyzed them and realized that Warworld needs to stay in close proximity to work, so their real target is the Warworld itself. Meanwhile, Primus tells Hot Rod about how he exists across all of space and time and can't really die in the traditional sense. He tells Hot Rod that he's been chosen to be a Prime, and needs to be shown the true threat they all face, pulling him into an extra-dimensional realm known as Zero Space. Primus vanishes, leaving Grimlock's body behind. And while all this is going on, Blaster has tracked down Soundwave to confront him and end his part in all this. And if they destroy each other, this might finally be what we've been building up to for so long. The birth of new Soundwave! Naturally, we go from issue 94 to issue 0. Appropriately for this number, we're in Zero Space. It shows Hot Rod visions of the past, first bits from a Marvel UK issue regarding the dark matrix energy Thunderwing possessed, then the formation of the Underbase itself, originally begun with 5 of Cybertron's most intelligent beings uploading their knowledge into a single database. Among them was G-Axis, who killed the others and took the initial knowledge of the Underbase. He was frustrated with Cybertron's isolationism and decided to create his own empire, deleting knowledge of his existence from all records and memory in the process. After that, the fate of Buster and his girlfriend Jessie, killed by Megatron's army in his takeover of Earth, as he desperately called Spike to get him to resume his duties as Fort Max. He's also killed by Ratbat in a car wash.
This is bad comedy.
Yeah, this seems wrong in my opinion, especially since I think the car wash of Doom is just fun fluff. Twisting it like this is unnecessarily cruel. In a vision of an alternate reality, Rodimus Prime fights Galvatron on Junkion. He struck down, his version of the Matrix falling away, right into Hot Rod's hands. He takes it and transforms into Rodimus, emerging back in their reality in front of Bludgeon, who was about to kill Cup. In issue 95, we see the lead up to that. Cup and the Wreckers managing to infiltrate the War World. Down in the Primus chamber, Grimlock regains consciousness and, much like in the movie with the Sharktacons, quickly gets the primordial Cybertronians to halt their attack. A green mist soon seeping into old Gosei's head on the wall. Even turns his eyes green.
Well, suddenly I have a refreshing mint flavor.
While the Wreckers get their asses kicked by Bludgeon, the battle on the surface soon turns to the side of good, as the Dinobots lead the primordial Cybertronians in fighting the drones. While Rodimus makes his appearance as per the 0th issue, Blaster and Soundwave have their own fight. Your problem, Blaster? You lack finesse. To you, acoustics is a sledgehammer, when the real art lies in obfuscation and misdirection.
All talk, no shock.
But no, Blaster manages to take him down just as Rodimus successfully defeats Bludgeon. Bludgeon this whole time has been talking about how he knows he'll die in this battle, atonement for his retreat back on Clo. Then you are the one, my glorious demise, my immortality! Said glorious demise is Rodimus tossing him out a window and he burns up in the atmosphere. Well, look at it this way, Bludgeon. With the flames of the atmosphere all around you, you probably look like Ghost Rider right before you hit the ground. Having been goaded on by Shockwave, Starscream flies the Ark in and blasts the War World, leading our heroes to victory. Now I just imagine Starscream riding out on the top of the Ark like Loki in Thor Ragnarok. Autobots! I, Starscream, am your savior! and new leader! Thus we arrive at the final arc of Regeneration 1, the war to end all wars. Cleanup continues, again. They find Bludgeon, shockingly still alive, though clearly in pain. He begs to be killed, but Rodimus thinks there's no more fitting a punishment for what he's done than to deny him his glorious death. I mean, half his face is missing, and he's got a bunch of rocks sticking out of him. I'm pretty sure we passed glorious and just are in the middle of make it stop. Primus showed Rodimus in the Zeroth issue 4 distinct anomalies that will endanger them that have to be dealt with. Galvatron, who disappeared after the battle, G-Axis, the Dark Matrix creature, and Spike Witwicky. Spike himself is pretty pissed that the other humans agreed to the Nebulos plan, since it'll involve building a space bridge, and his resentment of the Transformers is almost at circuit breaker levels. Our heroes locate Galvatron, but he's soon aided by the possessed Acolytes of Unicron that had shown up right before the Planet Eater arrived, whisking Galvatron away. On Nebulos, they begin their procedure to finally complete Fortress Maximus's new body. But apparently the Venom symbiote hitched a ride from back in the 3rd issue, since it comes out of nowhere and infects his head. And just to make things better, G-Axis arrives in a huge ship and a massive army. My name is G-Axis. I come in peace. You can tell how happy I am about peace by this smile on my face. In issue 97, they invite G-Axis down to talk, hopefully glean some information out of him. On Earth, work finishes up on the space bridge. Is Senior Scientist Borks still with you? Nope, he's back at the Technodrome. Krang showed up, said his warranty is still good on the thing, and we're effecting repairs. Fortress Maximus is brought back online, and while momentarily he's aware that something's infected him, he soon says everything is fine. Back on Cybertron, Rodimus just flat out says, "Hey, you've been gone for millions of years, and Primus said you're gonna be a problem." Few diplomatic conversations begin with, "God himself told us we should fear you. What's that about?" G-Axis is rather calm about the whole thing, basically stating that gods like Primus are just as fallible as any living being, and thinks the grand plan is bullcrap. Instead, he went out to create cosmic order by forming the Cybertronian Empire, terraforming planets to resemble Cybertron, and then connecting them as we see here. He calls it the Hub Network, and he's come to ask Cybertron to join it. Rodimus has already figured out, though, that a lot of these worlds already had life on it, and G-Axis is sticking with his Gen 2 version of not giving a rat's ass about organic life. And he's not taking no for an answer. Rodimus tries to attack G-Axis, but he'd absorbed part of the underbase back when it was first being formed. Even at that early stage, a small bit of its power made G-Axis more than a match for Rodimus. While all this has been happening, G-Axis's forces deliberately went after the primordial Cybertronians and tried to kill them, the Dinobots standing in their way, but heavily damaged in the fight. And over with the Ark, hiding in an asteroid field, Starscream seems to recognize G-Axis, saying that he was one of us, one of the 5, and that there shall be a reckoning. I'm just going to assume that dying and being resurrected so many times just makes Starscream so powerful he's channeling ancient spirits or something. In issue 98, believing they found a way to destroy G-Axis's hub network, our heroes stage an attack on it. It does not go well. G-Axis left it as bait and had already anticipated this possibility of an attack, so now he demands total surrender from Rodimus or they'll all be eradicated. Naturally, he surrenders. Things are not much better on Earth. The space bridge is finished, but Fort Max is the one who comes through, blasts Prime, and takes Spike back through, and Spike's in a state of shock upon seeing the guy. Starscream, in the meantime, or whoever is possessing him, builds a new body for Shockwave to assist him. Down in the Primus chamber, the Acolytes of Unicron get all their energy sucked up into a now very angry-looking Primus head. In our penultimate issue, Spike is brought into Zero Space, where the force behind Fort Max explains that he's the perfect trinity of human, Nebulan, and Cybertronian mixed into one, and thus he'll be the way to launch this creature into the multiverse. Of course, this is their tie-in to Into the Spider-Verse. They're gonna get the Spider-Man from issue 3 back. While most of Rodimus's forces have been captured, the Wreckers are doing what their name implies, hit-and-run attacks on the hub to smash it. Meanwhile, Starscream and Shockwave have also arrived at the hub covertly, and we quickly get an idea of what's going on as our traitorous pal turns gold and flies off, declaring itself to be the Underbase. Yep, it seems that the memories of the other 4 that formed the original Underbase were still present in Starscream's form and have empowered him, using him to get to G-Axis while Shockwave runs interference by blowing up more stuff. They're still pissed about what happened millions of years ago, and as such have decided to drain Geaxis' intelligence into them. Rodimus frees the others and contacts the Wreckers to coordinate escape. Shockwave, armed with his own power and that of the Ark, helps completely destabilize the hub while taking Starscream's body away. But back on Cybertron, the dark matrix energy, the last piece of this puzzle, makes itself known on the surface, leading into the final issue of Regeneration 1. Number 100 in a 4-issue limited series. Although, is that still the case when you had to actually rename your book into Regeneration 1 to make it a distinct limited series on its own? Rodimus' forces return to Cybertron and find it, well, it's hard to describe exactly, decayed maybe, and devoid of life. Rodimus realizes that the visions from Primus he was receiving weren't from him at all, but rather the dark, corrupted Matrix energy. It deliberately provoked him into attacking Geaxis and keeping him away from the planet while it did this. To be fair,
To be fair.
To be fair.
Geaxis was a major threat, and your actions completely annihilated his millions of years of planning in a day, so you can't say it wasn't at least productive. They're attacked by pencil scribbles that were once Transformers, corrupted by the dark matrix energy. The group are saved by the Dinobots, Grimlock having been thankfully immune to conversion thanks to briefly being a host. Galvatron also took control of the space bridge controls, isolating Cybertron, but keeping the one between Earth and Nebulos active. Rodimus, in his visions, saw the multiverse and is reminded of the Trinity, a set of planets that supposedly hold the key to the multiverse. Earth, Nebulos, and Cybertron, and he needs to investigate further. Ultra Magnus is sent to deal with Galvatron, who has been let loose on Nebulos, while Rodimus enters Zero Space using the Sword and the Covenant of Primus, confronting the Dark Matrix energy. The energy explains to Rodimus how it went through all this, deliberately fanning the flames of rebellion and various factions like Scorponok, feasting on chaos and disorder. Basically, it's been the puppet master behind the scenes for Regeneration 1. It creates a vision of 3 different forms of Optimus Prime to beat up Rodimus, while also torturing Spike, sending him visions of his brother and father to get him to unleash the energy he needs to enter the multiverse. Still, Rodimus takes advantage of that to summon help, sending the Covenant of Primus through the portal he's making, and summoning Rodimuses throughout the multiverse to come to the rescue. This is not the continuation of Marvel's Exiles that I was expecting. While Galvatron and Fort Max get dealt with, Rodimus convinces Spike to let go of his bitterness and hatred, honor his family, and close off the portal, trapping the Dark Matrix energy in Zero Space. Rodimus returns to Cybertron along with the real Optimus, who apparently had been taken by the energy somehow, I don't know, and he dies, thanking Rodimus as he turns grayscale. Doing this, though, cut off the Marvel continuity from the rest of the multiverse. Our epilogue brings us to Rodimus Prime in the distant future, now the last Autobot in existence. He narrates what happened next, them needing to abandon Cybertron to keep the Trinity of Worlds from interacting with the multiverse again, helping the humans and Nebulans unite and create a thriving new society. The Transformers went out to spread peace instead of conflict throughout the universe. Even Shockwave and Starscream seem to have been changed and been made better from all these experiences. I bet those 2 kids finally got married. They even got a dog! Cat. When did Ravage come back? Rodimus collapses and dies, but back on Cybertron, in an earlier issue, we had seen the primordial Cybertronians had gone into some kind of weird cocoon state before the Dark Matrix energy consumed everything. And now they emerge as this silhouetted figure, who's apparently Botanica from Beast Machines, but I don't know why anyone would assume that. Regeneration 1 overall is pretty dang good, but it is a lot. I actually thought this episode might be shorter since I was only really talking about 30 comics instead of 40, but here we are. There are so many elements at play, so much stuff revived for this that it just hits the ground running and never stops. And yet, while it is a bit draining, it's actually paced fairly well and has plenty of great characterization, moments to reflect, and awesome fight scenes. It calls back to a lot of stuff, and while it's sad that Andrew Wildman didn't do the pencils on all the books, the artwork was consistently pretty damn good. I do feel there was some stuff that could have probably used more build-up, like Geaxis, the point of the primordial Cybertronians, and the Dark Matrix itself, but it doesn't really need it. You get the idea of everything that happens. At some points, it seems like, as a sequel series, it feels the need to call back to everything that happened in the original book, and yet I get the idea that it's trying to bring a sense of finality to this continuity, and I'm okay with that. And there are a lot of things I love about this continuity, especially the earlier Marvel books. One of the problems of the animated series was that for a franchise whose tagline is robots in disguise, they didn't actually do the disguise stuff that often, especially as the series progressed and they needed to introduce new elements and characters and complex parts. The Autobots were just friendly with Earthlings and did stuff with them. The Marvel book? That tension between humanity and the Autobots meant that for a lot of the run, they were in disguise, trying to hide, trying to help whenever they could. Even when they had human allies and friends, their disguise element remained even to the Underbase saga, when Jesse carried Blaster in on the vacation. And indeed, those human characters were used so effectively. No one was annoying, and it was a delight to see them just as much as the Transformers. It's just been such a wild ride from start to finish. Pretty much all my other retrospectives ended with me hoping for a continuation, mostly because they ended on such a low note or they had been mishandled for so long, but not this stuff. Generation 2 was not good, but even that ending still felt satisfactory. From the original to Gen 2 to Regeneration 1, this story has been a long one, but truly fulfilling and enjoyable. It's a saga that spans decades that, as I said, touches on war, horror, spiritualism, hope, and evil. It's what makes the Transformers such a good franchise, and I'm glad I got a chance to dive deep into it all again. Just as it was as a teenager curious about the Great War that Beast Wars mentioned all the time. And it sure as hell was great. Next time, we celebrate some more Star Trek with a look at an old Gold Key issue. We're not done with Transformers this year, but we'll get to that eventually. For now, though, seek out this series if you can. Until the day when all are one. Yeah, not like that! Listen carefully. After many stellar cycles of patient preparation, I am mostly ready to avenge our humbling defeat on Klo. I have the substantive means to strike back, but a key element remains elusive.
I'm the ninja consultant for the Decepticons.
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!